So anxiety is a combination of two of the brain's functions. The first one is that kind of safety, security, threat analysis function of the brain. And then that would usually just cause fear, cause you to feel scared, and usually you would react accordingly to keep yourself safe. Where anxiety is different than run of the mill fear, stress, is it involves the brain's capacity to kind of project threat into various situations that may or may not actually be threatening. They might just be uncomfortable. Oftentimes, they're just unfamiliar. And so, what happens is the brain is exposed to something new or novel. It then sees that thing as threatening, and as a result, most likely it avoids it. And so that avoidance then really becomes kind of the seed of the anxiety. And it teaches the brain, oh, I avoided this thing because it seemed unsafe. The brain says, yep, and we stayed safe because we avoided it. And now all of a sudden, the seed of avoidance starts to build this plant of anxiety. Um, and so that's more or less where anxiety comes from, and then it kind of cycles on itself. The more you avoid, the bigger the anxiety grows, um, and usually the way to kind of resolve this is to very gradually start to expose ourselves to whatever it is we've been avoiding. And so within that, things to pay attention to when it comes to anxiety are going to be the various kind of symptoms, warning signs of it. The first things that usually we'll notice with anxiety are actual physical symptoms. This looks different for everybody, but a lot of people it can be tension or upset feelings in their stomach, tightness in their chest, redness in their face or ears, heat in that area. Um, and this is oftentimes combined with thoughts. Sometimes we can feel like our thoughts are just like running down this railroad track out of control, and we know it's happening, but we feel really, really limited in our capacity to stop it, or we try to distract ourselves, but our brain kind of gets pulled back to it. And then anxiety can also look a little bit different for well, anxiety can look different for everybody, and it all just kind of depends on the things that we've been exposed to that could create that anxiety and the things that we have maybe avoided as a result of anxiety. This can be anything from kind of physical fears, physical threats, spiders, heights, that type of thing. But anxiety tends to actually be just as, if not much more common when it comes to psychological distress. When we think about emotional intelligence, for instance, men oftentimes experience a level of anxiety around culturally inappropriate male emotions like sadness and fear. And so when men feel anxious, as a result of avoiding sadness and fear, oftentimes that can become anger. And unsurprisingly for women, it's almost the opposite. Sometimes women will feel anger and then feel anxious about being angry, and that might get pushed into fear or sadness. And so when it comes to how we start to address anxiety or treat anxiety, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it's usually this process of gradual exposure. So identify the thing that you're scared of, and then gradually begin to engage that thing just a little bit at a time. We oftentimes will use the language around kind of applying pressure to it. If we aren't actively applying pressure to anxiety, usually it's applying pressure on us. And that experience tends to be more and more constricting and limiting on what we're able to do within our lives. Where if we are able to do the opposite and apply pressure and gradually kind of push against this thing that we're avoiding, make a phone call, meet a new person, look at a physical scary thing, all of a sudden we create more space and less constriction as a result of anxiety.